All right, IED. This is going to be for activity 2.4.1, troubleshoot and assembly. And we had talked about the initiate and how to get a design brief and a project charter in the previous video. Today we're going to talk about the plan section, which is what I want for planning and preparing. If this was group work that you were doing in the classroom, you would need to do three things, like a group task distribution. But if you're virtual and you're doing this by yourself, you don't have to worry about the group task distribution because you're going to be fronting all of this yourself. So for virtual students, we're going to worry about specifically the functional analysis and the complexity factor. So don't forget, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the trammel toy parts that we have. Let's get it to where it's actually assembled together in its janky glory. So you can look and see how all of the parts don't exactly fit together. So we're going to be trying to fit this. But even if you haven't redesigned it or anything yet, you can still perform the plan and prepare. And what we need to do for planning and preparing is take a look at the functional analysis of this trammel toy and what it's going to look like whenever it moves. So whenever you turn this crank up here at the top, you're going to turn the crank around and around. And as you do, the slider bars are going to slide to the left and the slider bars are also going to slide up and down. So remember that a functional analysis, you can kind of do this in one of two ways. You can either draw a picture of the object itself and then draw out what each part does and its function, or you can do a black box analysis. And if you don't remember what a black box analysis is, it has, inputs on the left and then a big black box in the middle, and then you draw an arrow on the right side and you put your outputs. If you need an example of what that looks like, you can go back to the previous section on functional analysis. Just go into your Chromebook into the module section on Canvas and hit Control F and type in functional analysis. If I'm not your teacher and you need to be like, oh crap, I don't know what functional analysis is, you're probably using the Project Lead the Way curriculum. So you can go to that website, log in, and you can get the functional analysis sheet too, and it'll tell you how to do the black box model. So that's what I'm going to need for the first one is the black box model. That'd be my recommendation. You can draw it all out if you want to, but that's going to be on a different section, so you'd be doing double the work if you did. So I would probably do it using the black box model system and think about what each one of these things has a function of doing. Okay, the corner blocks, they have a function. The base plate, it has a function. The slider bars have a function. The crank has a function. So there's a lot of different functions that occur inside this block, and you need to explain to me what each one of them does. Okay, so the next one is, let's go back over here and see what else we need. We need to calculate the complexity factor of the system itself. So remember the complexity factor is you count up the total number of parts that are in the system. So I can count up all of these different parts inside the trammel toy. You're going to then multiply it by the number of interfaces, and the number of interfaces is where each part touches against another part. So this screw would actually have two interfaces because it interfaces with the corner block and it also interfaces with the base plate. So that would be a total of two interfaces. Okay. So I know if you're looking at the 3D model, there are two base plates. In class, we're only using one base plate. We're not using the one down at the bottom. So for us in class, this would have one, two interfaces. And if you include the base plate in your virtual, if you can include the bottom one, that's not a big deal. Just make sure that you actually show me that you actually included it in your calculations, and I'll totally give you credit for it. Not a big deal there. So you got to count up the number of parts, and then you count up the total number of interfaces. It's going to be a pretty big number, like somewhere between 1 and 50. And you're then going to multiply those two numbers together, and then you're going to take the square root of that answer. So it's going to be the number of parts multiplied by the number of interfaces, and then take the square root of that answer. Okay? And those are the two deliverables that I'm going to need for you virtually for activity 2.4.1, which is troubleshoot and assembly. I'll keep going and telling you what we need for the other ones as well too. So I'll tell you what we need for execute, I'll tell you what we need for redesign, and I'll tell you what we need for test and evaluate. But here they all are right now. Y'all have a great and fantastic day, and I'll talk at you later.